Welcome to the Library Connection. I'm Tracey Thomas, Director at the B.B. Comer Library, and I want to thank you so much for joining us today. It's that time of year again. We're about to kick off our winter brown bag series again at the library. And before we get started this morning, I just want to thank TV 47 here so much for always giving us an outlet and a platform to advertise these great programs that we're doing for our community. So thank you to them as well. This morning we're going to be joined by Dr. Shirley Spears, and Dr. Spears, of course, was our library director for many years, and now she still continues to help us plan these wonderful programs through the Library Foundation. So Dr. Spears, thank you so much for joining us today.
Tracey, it's my pleasure to be here. I always enjoy planning the programs and enjoy seeing them even more.
I know. Well, as most of you know, Dr. Spears started this program at the Comer Library many years ago. We started this in 91, 92?
I think 94. Next
94.
year, I think, is
Okay.
our big year to celebrate 30.
Okay. And the program has morphed into what it is now through a series, I'm going to say trial and error. We've tried different venues, different rooms in the library. We've tried different times, just different formats, and we finally have landed on the one that we think appeals to most everybody. And it is our B.B. Comer Library First Bank of Alabama. It's our adult lecture series, and this one is called Traveling Through History. And I love the way that you try to come up with a theme and you try to put together presenters that kind of fall into that.
Well, you know, it's kind of interesting because sometimes it does the reverse. You put them together and then you sit and think about what it could be. And all of a sudden, Dolores Haddock, she said, I'm doing some travel stories because I've looked at this and, you know, the Bartram's travels and then the ladies traveling, you know, in the airplanes and all that. So she said, I think that I'll just tell 3 of my traveling stories. So, you know, I said, honey, you do anything you want to, just so you come.
And that's kind of where the name morphed from for the series.
It did for this one, and sometimes it's the other way around. You will have something you're kind of committed to, and you'll try to fit it in. So it's a great deal of fun to try to work that puzzle. It really is, and it's a good bit of hassle, too, because everybody has to, when you start choosing days and all of a sudden you're down to one day, and you feel bad about calling somebody and say, hey, I've got one day left. So anyway, we do have a good lineup. I think it's one of our better ones.
I think so too, and I always want to mention this. You know, some libraries have come to visit us before, and they've actually come to the brown bag programs to see what we do and the format, and they'll say, you know, these presenters, we can't afford to do things like this at our library, and I really want to emphasize that we wouldn't be able to do these kinds of things at our library either if it wasn't for sponsorships.
Right.
And people in the community that really see the benefit in people having a free outlet to go to for education and enrichment. And so the First Bank of Alabama has been wonderful to us. They've given us so much good support. So I just really want to thank the people at First Bank of Alabama for continuing to sponsor this lecture series.
I think it's important that the public realize how grateful we are to have a budget to operate the library. But if you have the wonderful things that make us stand out, then our people, our private donations, our sponsors, they make all that possible for this community, and it has been so worthwhile. And I think people realize it, and so through the years we've continued to gain support, to have support for the things that we want to do. And so we're just grateful for the private help that combined with the grants and the city support makes a wonderful library possible, Tracey. And y'all do such a good job taking the funds and making them work for the public, all ages. So it's a good thing.
Well, thank you. So if you've never been to Brown Bag and you say, well, what is Brown Bag? Let's talk about the format just a little bit so that you understand what will happen that day when you come. What we do is we open the room at 11:30. When I say the room, I mean the auditorium. That's the Harry I. Brown Auditorium. We have changed the format a little bit in response to COVID the last few years because we recognize that people want to feel safe. They want to come to a program where they feel like they've got a safe environment. So in order to create that environment, we have set up our luncheon tables in the auditorium instead of across the hall the way that it used to be. So you come in at 11:30, the room will open, and we've kind of pressed the reset button on our brown bag and gone back to the way that we originally intended for that format of that program to be. And so we're asking if you would just bring you a sack lunch with a sandwich, chips, whatever you'd like to bring in it. And when you get to the door, we will provide you with a pre-wrapped dessert and a bottle of water. And so I have to mention here the Coast Valley Medical Center Hickory Street Cafe has been so great to help us with those pre-wrapped desserts, and everybody looks forward to those fresh baked cookies when they come in. So we want to thank them as well for their help in making this program possible. So the program actually starts at 12 noon, so you have about 30 minutes when you come in and sit down to visit with your neighbors, to visit with your friends. And we're asking if you would, of course, if you feel sick, please stay home that day and join us at the next one. But when you come in, just out of respect for the people there, if you would, just wear a mask, and as soon as you sit down, you're free to take that off, because we just don't want to do anything, cause an environment that makes anybody feel uncomfortable or unsafe. So with that said, let's get started talking about our programs, Dr. Spears. We're actually going to kick off on February the 1st. All the programs are on a Wednesday. Again, the room opens at 11:30 and the programs kick off at noon, and they last until about 1 o'clock.
Mm-hmm. They have about an hour to present and receive questions. Works well.
And our first speaker is somebody that we have not had before.
Well, you know, Matthew Downs is a new speaker to us, but I kept hearing about him over the years. And Scotty Kirkland at the Archives and History kept talking about what good programs that Matthew does. And so anyway, I decided to try him, and I saw his picture and I thought, gosh, this is a young guy. You know, I mean, for the experience that he has a PhD from the University of Alabama in history. And he is an associate professor of history and also the dean of the Arts and Sciences program there at the University of Mobile. So I'd say that he's done very well for himself. He does have a book on his, sort of on his subject, which is called Transforming the South, but he's going to do a program for us on the TVA, the Tennessee Valley Authority. And all these years, all my life, I've always heard of the TVA and the impact that it's had on our state, and what a wonderful thing it turned out to be. And if you drive up into North Alabama and see the Tennessee River and see that beautiful part of the world up there, and you think, gosh, you know, this is kind of a different world. But in looking back and thinking about what Matthew was going to do for us and realizing the magnitude of this project, it was part of basically the New Deal. It was about 1933 when the TVA was formed. And it's just huge. It's 7 states, and I was kind of surprised because, I mean, I'd thought about, of course, Tennessee and Alabama and Georgia and Mississippi, but then you've got North Carolina and Kentucky and Virginia. So it is just a huge project that's a federal project, and it has a 3-person administration, sort of, that's appointed by the President of the United States. And according to Matthew, and I think his statement is interesting, that you know, it revitalized a great deal, but it also changed in many ways the way we think about the federal government, the role they play in our life, the acceptance that we have come to realize that it makes a difference, a good difference for us many times. So this project's just phenomenal. I mean, I don't even know how to get my arms around thinking about it. Maybe 50 dams, and the purpose of it being, I'm not trying to give Matthew's program, but it did just astonish me to realize that they were looking at, of course, generating electricity. They were looking at recreational use. They were looking at improving the lives of people. They managed to control the mosquito problem, which had impacted malaria while they were doing all of this. So it's just a great story, and it's kind of the government's answer to coming up with projects that help to sort of heal the economic collapse that we'd had during the Depression. So I think people will be so glad. I think men and women will enjoy this program. And if you notice, so many of the programs are geared toward both. Mm-hmm. And our guys enjoy them and the women enjoy them. And that's one of the things I think that we're most proud of, Tracey, is that we have that appeal with our programs to just about anybody. You just can't imagine people not being interested in the things that we're talking about here with these 5 programs. So I'm looking forward to meeting Matthew. I never have met him, and you haven't.
I haven't.
So anyway, he's looking forward to coming, and he didn't hesitate to say that he would like to be here. Good. So, you know, our series does have a reputation out there, and so it makes it good when you start calling people that they think, yeah, I'd like to come to Sylacauga.
Well, when you use your contacts like Scotty Kirkland at the Department of Archives and History, you're able to get a better quality presenter, I think.
Oh, yeah, and they have such good presenters, too. You know, they've been. Mm-hmm. He and Alex Colvin and Steve Murray, and they've been on site, and they don't hesitate to say, you know, this is one of the best venues in the state of Alabama. So we just really appreciate the Archives and History a lot.
There are 5 programs in this series. You've heard about one. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the others.
The Maxie Veazey Senior Adult Activity Center offers the senior citizens in the Sylacauga and surrounding areas lots of fantastic activities throughout the week. Sewing, ladies bridge, quilting, game-o-rama, ceramic classes, bingo, travel club, and lots more. It's all at the Maxie Veazey Senior Adult Activity Center located next to the J. Craig Smith Community Center in Sylacauga. Don't spend any more time alone. Get out, make new friends, and have fun.
Sylacauga's best kept secret? No more. Harvey's on Noble is the place to go for the area's best food and drinks. Whether you're in the mood for steak, burgers, salad, seafood, or dessert, Harvey's on Noble will not disappoint, and the atmosphere is perfect for catching the big game or just relaxing after work. Harvey's is open for dinner Wednesday through Saturdays, so round up the family and we'll see you at Harvey's on Noble, downtown Sylacauga.
Great. What am I going to do now?
Time to visit Brown's Auto Collision.
No problem at all. We've contacted your insurance company and we can get you back into original condition right away. And I just want to remind you that all of our work is covered by a lifetime warranty. We're done.
Wow, that was easy and looks great.
Brown's Auto Collision.
Where quality is no accident.
Welcome back to the Library Connection. I'm Tracey Thomas, Director at the B.B. Comer Library, and today we're talking with Dr. Shirley Spears, and Dr. Spears is helping us hear about some of the brown bag programs in this winter series that we've got coming up. The series will kick off on February the 1st. The room at the library will open at 11:30. You can bring your sack lunch with a sandwich and some chips, whatever you want to bring, and we'll provide you with a pre-wrapped cookie from the Hickory Street Cafe and a bottle of water. And the whole series is made possible because of First Bank of Alabama. And so we're excited about this. The series is called Traveling Through History. Dr. Spears, we've talked about the first program in the series. It's a new presenter that we've not seen before, but the second presenter on February the 8th is somebody that's a dear friend to the library.
Well, Catherine has been coming to the library for a long time. She's a really good friend to the library, and it's interesting to me for time to pass and age to creep up on you, because I remember when Catherine went to Auburn, and she has a PhD from Florida State, and she is a naturalist. She is a specialist in the Indian history. And she really is a phenomenal person. She's a phenomenal scholar, for one thing. She has really written some books that are significant in the history of Indians. And she became interested along the way with her naturalist in the William Bartram travels. And I hadn't heard in my lifetime, in my love of history, I didn't know about William Bartram, but after we found out about William Bartram and him coming through the Southeast in the late 1700s, to realize how unsettled it was, and you just had the Indian villages and the growth and everything, and so William Bartram was a Quaker, and they're immigrants, and became citizens of the United States, of course. But anyway, he was really interested in traveling and seeing what the country was like, and I can't even imagine most of it on horseback and traveling down through, and I think they had a buggy. I don't know how much they were able to use it. They probably had to push it most of the way. But I don't know, it's just an interesting thought, because he also was an artist, an illustrator, and he was very interested in drawing, and so those drawings are such a blessing. The art that he left behind, where he would do the flowers, the fauna, the growth of the countryside, is just such a treasure. And the pictures that these presenters have put together, and of course Dr. John Hall, there is a William Bartram Society, and it's very, very active, and of course Catherine's very involved in that. And she has a new book out on essays about William Bartram's travels, so she's coming off of that is one reason we decided to revisit. That she has some new scholarship, she's looked at it again, And also, we have a lot of people in the audience that didn't see John Hall's presentations that were brought to our audience a long time ago. So we decided to revisit that subject because it is so interesting. Catherine will be focusing on the visits to the Indian, the Creek, and the Seminole Indian villages. And actually, she'll have pictures showing a great deal of his art, I'm sure. But I really thought that that would be interesting to our audience to know about what he saw when he visited those Indian villages.
Sure.
So that seems like such an interesting twist to it, and she can go so many directions with it.
You know, it seems like the programs that we have that have a Native American focus to them, it seems like they seem to generate more question and answer at the end. We always have a short question and answer period at the end of the program, and it just seems like we always have such a great interest from the audience.
We do. I think there's a great deal of interest in Indian history around here, and there are quite a few people that really have focused on it, and they know a great deal about it. And of course, we have an Indian presence now in Coosa County, and we'll learn more as time goes by about that in the village or the place that's being developed in Coosa County. It may be later that we can have a program on what's actually going on in our own area to bring back the history of the Muskogee Indians, the language itself. So it's just an interesting thought, and Ted has sort of explored that a good bit. He's real interested in the Coosa County group. So there is a great deal of interest in Indians. Catherine is a wonderful scholar. She did the Deerskin and Duffel's book studying the early Indians, and so she's very knowledgeable, and she will do a wonderful job. She always does.
She will.
She really knows how to reach an audience of layperson, people like us who want to know and see and just have painless learning, I guess is the way to put it.
Now, the program on February the 15th, if you've ever been to one of the programs and you've seen Elnora Spencer, you know what a fantastic jazz singer she is. And Elnora is known all over Birmingham, and we've been lucky enough to have her the last few years join us.
She is so entertaining, she really is, and she's so smart, and she's got a beautiful voice, but she has this wonderful personality also. She's fun. And this is one of our programs, and she told me one time, and we latched onto it. I said, you know, what do you call what you do, Elnora? And she said, I just call it the jazzy blues. So Elnora bills herself as doing the jazzy blues, and she is in the Alabama Music, the Jazz Hall of Fame, and the Blues Hall of Fame, and all of that. She's had all the honors, you know, for her work. And she brings some guys with her that I think are interesting and really talented. And she told me when I talked to her that, you know, Byron will be back. And of course, she has a keyboard, maybe the drums, the bass. And so she has some beautiful music. And if they just came and played the music, it would be a wonderful program. But Elnora sings, and she takes people back, and you can watch the audience and see that the husbands and wives, the Fly Me to the Moon, and some of those songs from other eras that it's interesting. They're timeless. Right. And so she said, you know, Shirley, I said, do you have any new songs, Elnora? She said, well, I have a few, but you know, I do my thing. So Elnora will be here, and she'll be doing her thing, and it will be wonderful. It really will. I mean, in February, you know, it's cold and dreary, and we're always glad to get out and go to something bright and beautiful. So we think the music and the storytelling complements the history so well.
I think so too. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll tell you about the last couple of programs in this series.
The Maxie Veazey Senior Adult Activity Center offers the senior citizens in the Sylacauga and surrounding areas lots of fantastic activities throughout the week. Sewing, ladies bridge, quilting, game-o-rama, ceramic classes, bingo, travel club, and lots more. It's all at the Maxie Veazey Senior Adult Activity Center located next to the J. Craig Smith Community Center in Sylacauga. Don't spend any more time alone. Get out, make new friends, and have fun.
Sylacauga's best kept secret? No more. Harvey's on Noble is the place to go for the area's best food and drinks. Whether you're in the mood for steak, burgers, salad, seafood, or dessert, Harvey's on Noble will not disappoint, and the atmosphere is perfect for catching the big game or just relaxing after work. Harvey's is open for dinner Wednesday through Saturdays, so round up the family and we'll see you at Harvey's on Noble, downtown Sylacauga.
Great. What am I going to do now?
Time to visit Brown's Auto Collision.
No problem at all. We've contacted your insurance company and we can get you back into original condition right away. And I just want to remind you that all of our work is covered by a lifetime warranty. We're done.
Wow, that was easy and looks great.
Brown's Auto Collision.
Where quality is no accident.
Welcome back to the Library Connection. I'm Tracey Thomas, and today we're talking with Dr. Shirley Spears about Comer Library's Brown Bag Lecture Series, and that will start again on February the 1st. Again, we want to make sure to say thank you to First Bank of Alabama for their sponsorship in making these programs possible. This is a 5-part series, and we've talked about 3 of the programs, Dr. Spears. And so let's talk about the one on February the 22nd with Billy Singleton. He is another new presenter to us.
Billy is a new presenter, but I have heard of him for so many years. And I remember one time that we did a program on the Wright brothers, and I knew that, Billy really had a lot of expertise in that area. And somebody else did that program for us at that time. I can't remember, a new book out or something, what it was. But anyway, when we started looking this time, I thought about Billy because he's just somebody you think, that you'd really like to have to come. And so Jay Lamar is the person that really talked to me before about Billy and how wonderful he was, what a good presenter. And she said, I think Sylacauga will just love Billy. He's, interestingly enough, he's over in Clanton, and he's on the city council over there, so he's not too far away, and that makes me feel comfortable to know that he's pretty close by. But anyway, he is a very learned person. He serves, of course, on the airport authority there and works with everything concerned with what we're talking about. But I believe that I'm trying to remember, but he has a degree, I believe, from Troy University, and then he has an aeronautical science degree. So he's really knowledgeable about the subject. And last month, I was just blown away with the Alabama Heritage Magazine because he had an article on there called Alabama's First Ladies of Flight. And if you haven't seen that article, it is absolutely beautiful, beautifully done. And he sort of hones in on a couple of ladies. One was Catherine Stinson from Fort Payne and Ruth Elder of Gadsden. They were daring women ahead of their time. And they were pilots who flew, and they won worldwide acclaim for, some of the things that they did with airplanes. And so I thought, that sounds like something we would really enjoy with him fresh off that article and thinking about it. And I think he's written hundreds of articles in his subject area, and he has 5 books out. So he's just a phenomenal person and a phenomenal scholar and writer, and so we're looking forward to having Billy, to meeting him for a lot of different reasons. He's close by, so it makes a lot of difference to know you've got somebody in your own backyard that's good and available. So I'm looking forward to seeing his program.
It's always nice when somebody takes the time to write stories about people who deserve to have their stories told.
Well, it does, and apparently he's spent his life doing that, just writing stories and telling a side of our history that people are interested in and it needs to be told.
The last program we'll have will be on Wednesday, March the 1st. If you've ever been before, you know that we always wrap up with Dolores Hydock. It is a wonderful hour of adult storytelling, and her stories, you think adults don't like to hear stories told to them, but if you've never experienced Dolores, you're wrong. So tell them about Dolores, Dr. Spears.
Well, my favorite thing to say about Dolores is that if you've seen Dolores, you'll be there if you can. If you haven't seen Dolores, you need to see Dolores because she is a storyteller extraordinaire. She's been such a great friend to this library. I don't even know how many years Dolores has been coming. She is a native of Pennsylvania, Yale University, but anyway, she came south to Sound Mountain to study folklore and folk ways. And as many people do from cold weather country, she stayed and has made her home. She's in Irondale. And she makes her living, actually, she's a professional actress and storyteller, and she makes her living doing exactly what she's going to do for us. And she does it in the area of all arenas, short stories, literature, history. She pulls her stories from sources you wouldn't believe that you could really make something so wonderful and informative and entertaining about. So I sent her the lineup because I knew she would come. She closes out every series that we have for us. Isn't that a wonderful commitment?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
She does it in March and she does it in November, so we always know we'll go out on a high note. But Dolores said, I've looked at your lineup, Shirley, and I think I'm going to do something called Story Souvenirs, where I'll have 3 little stories about travel. And one is my own, and then I have a couple of other stories. And so she decided that she would pick up on our theme and just do some travel stories. So Ted said, well, I'm delighted, because many, many years ago, Dolores did one of these stories for us, and he kind of thought of it as his favorite along the way. So we'll be so glad to have her to come in and just have her charming self there and help us to close out the series and send people home happy and looking forward to the fall.
Okay. Well, I want to mention before we close, we have just about a minute left. I want to mention too the role that Dr. Spears plays in all this. And Dr. Spears is the director of the Comer Library Foundation, which also raises money to support the library and to help us do things like this. So Dr. Spears, I just want to say thank you for the commitment that you've made to continue booking these programs for us, because these presenters come because Dr. Spears has got such a wonderful track record of putting together great programs like this. And I was thinking this morning about, in particular, Miss Thelma Evans, that used to come to the brown bag programs, and she loved them so much, and how, you know, when her family wanted to make a donation to the library, they said the brown bag programs mean so much to Mom. What can we do to, you know, make a donation but something in her name? And so the brown bag programs have a big impact on a lot of people.
They do. I think it's a wonderful thing, and it's a pleasure to continue to work with them. And of course, the Comer Library Brown Bag Series stands on its own legs. Mm-hmm. And it wouldn't matter who scheduled the programs. I think people would come and know that they were going to be good, Tracey, because you and your staff are the backbone of the whole thing and do the work, put it together. So for me, it's fun to make the phone calls and to line up people. And it's also a pleasure for me to ask people to help the library through the Library Foundation. I have no qualms about saying that that is the best membership you'll ever do when you join the Library Foundation, because all of the money that comes to the Library Foundation goes to the library. And we support the programs, we support what's needed at the library. Mm-hmm. And so it's a pleasure to be able to fill that role, and it's been a joy for me to do it for the last, well, I've done it since the beginning, but to continue to do it for the last nearly 6 years, mm-hmm. to be able to say that, you know, that I've had the privilege to do that. I thank you so much for that, and I encourage people to look into the foundation. If you want to do a legacy donation, whatever you want to do, we're glad to have put your funds to good use, because most everybody has charities they love.
Thank you, Dr. Spears, for joining us today, and thank you. We'll see you at the Brown Bag Series starting